A short time ago in a galaxy nearby, a podcast was made to inspire and entertain. Casual Space. Making space available, one story at a time. Your host with grace, Beth Mund.
Well, today is super exciting and special where we step a little bit outside of our industry and space, but into something that I feel, someone told me once, we're on a spaceship Earth. And so everything about discovering Earth is just as much relevant as discovering our science and planets. And I am so thrilled to have my friend and award-winning, top-selling author, Jessica, on today. She's the author, Jessica DeAngelo. Welcome to Casual Space, author of The Wild Advantage best-selling book. How do you feel?
Oh, Beth, it's so good to be here with you. It feels incredible because just 34 minutes ago, I got the phone call from the publisher that The Wild Advantage, Why Your Brain on Nature is Your Boldest Business Move, is not just bestseller in one category on Amazon. We are currently sweeping 3 categories.
Oh, what are the other 3?
So the 3 are, the first one's personal success in business. Second one is workplace trends. And then the third one is business innovation and technology.
Of course. Wow. Okay. Are you surprised? Or are you like,
yeah,
okay.
I mean, I had hoped.
I'm not. I'm not.
I had hoped, Beth, we would hit 1. But when he called, he was like, "Are you sitting down?" And I put him on.
That's always a good thing to hear. Are you sitting down?
I was like, "Hold on, let me put you on speakerphone." And he.
Well, I think it's so well deserved. And so, being fully transparent to my listening audience, I'm having you on the show today because when things, whether it's a book I read, an experience I have or share, a leader I find, someone who's making big, changes in the world. And at Stories of Space, we talk about changing the world one story at a time and the way we explore our world. And you have enveloped and you have unfolded this beautiful guide of how we're exploring not only nature, but ourselves in the world. And there's so much to unpack. So I am not surprised. You have landed perfectly, not only in my heart, but in my brain. You spoke to me so strongly. And this goes back to a couple years ago when we met professionally, and then we started our journey together, just keeping in touch. And it's been such a pleasure and an honor to follow you on this journey of success, which was never any doubt. But here we are now, and I cannot wait to celebrate with you. So before we unpack the book, why is nature so fundamentally part of who you are?
That's such a great question. And to be honest, Beth, I'm not surprised. No one has ever asked me that question.
Oh.
So I love it. Nature is so fundamental to who I am because I actually grew up on a 14-acre farm. My father was a high school biology teacher and a farmer. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled us. And I'm going to date myself, but I grew up in the 80s before
Yep.
Right? Before we all had cell phones and technology constantly distracting us. And I think, Beth, we're the last generation of children who grew up in the age of playing outside before video games and technology. So for me, I think nature's fundamental to who I am because I spent my childhood barefoot, running around on this farm, climbing apple trees and playing pretend games. And my adult life has been a way, whenever I felt this gigantic disconnection in my life, I always was seeking a way back to that.
Oh, I get you. Totally. Grew up the same, loved it. And I remember the neighbor next door had crabapple trees. We would throw them at each other all the time. The other neighbor next door had like 2 perfect trees in a row, and we used them to play base tag, like just throwing the ball back and forth. But if you didn't touch the tree, you're out and you got tagged. Nature was, yes, part of our childhood. Where did you grow up? What part of the country?
I grew up in central Pennsylvania.
Oh, I see. Beautiful. Is it as beautiful out there as it is in Utah and Boise?
I mean, I think so, just in different ways, right? I mean, it was so beautiful. Part of the 14 acres we grew up on and I lived on was a wooded forest. So,
oh gosh.
yeah,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've got this original skyline and beauty all around you, and it's just where you've started and grown up. So nature's always been part of your narrative since day one. And the fact that you've been homeschooled and, your parents were probably encouraging you to go out, go out, go out and play, or maybe you were working outside as well. So outside was just part of your everyday.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yes.
feel blessed that is rare? Do you find yourself when you work with clients that you are one of the few rare ones who had that experience?
I think so. Most of the clients I work with, Beth, I would generalize and I would say they are in our age demographic, if you will. And what's really, I think, interesting and just a pinch me moment in my work is that I work with so many high level executives. And when I do what I do, which, as you know, is I steal their cell phones and I take them out in nature, there's a big part of these people that it's like their childhood becomes awakened. I've had these
Mm.
experiences where I've found executives playing by the stream like an 8-year-old boy again.
How did nature walk alongside you in that journey as you started to grow and become who you are today?
I think that is the ironic part, Beth, is that I quickly forgot in adult life about nature. It was like a friend that I stayed out of touch with. So I
Oh.
grew up in central Pennsylvania and then I moved to Philadelphia to go to undergrad. And I was quickly commuting in downtown Philadelphia all the time, walking in the city and being pretty disconnected from nature. And it wasn't until later in life, after I graduated college and started my first real, adult job, that I found myself at a crossroads in my personal life, a really difficult time, if you will. And the only thing that helped me was to go back to nature. I found myself in a state park, Ridley Creek State Park in Pennsylvania, and hiking, which then turned into hiking daily. And I was seeking clarity into why my life was such a disaster.
Mm.
And I quickly found it. And then that became sort of this recipe in my adult life that when things became a train wreck, I essentially always found myself driving to a trailhead, leaving my cell phone in the car, and going for a walk in the woods. So I've really kind of practiced at three pivotal times in my life. I think I explore all of them in the book, that doing this sort of return to nature and hiking regularly for a period of time. And one of the big epiphanies I came to through this process, and now encouraging my clients and people, outside of myself to do this, is that everyone's obsessed, Beth, right now with why we are also distracted by
Oh.
technology, kind of like blaming technology as the boogeyman in the room. And what I've uncovered is that technology, while problematic, is not the boogeyman. We are our own boogeymen because we are avoiding some really harsh
So
truths in
true.
our lives. And we only
Yes.
kind of come to those epiphanies by spending time in nature, in movement, and unplugged, where we can kind of hear our thoughts like disseminate. But a lot of people avoid that because they may come to realizations that they're not ready to have.
Mm. So true. When did you learn that, hey, if I went into nature and I could sit with myself and I could find the answers, how did you learn to pivot and be able to guide and implement that for others? Because that's a whole nother part of what you allow to happen in other people.
For sure. Great question. So it was actually January of last year when I had my big epiphany. I, had started running my consulting business 3 years ago, and I'd kind of reached this moment of being uninspired and unmotivated. And so I challenged myself to hike for 31 days straight in the month of January 2024 in
Yeah, what
Idaho.
were you thinking? What, why? Why
Because
January?
yeah, well, I wasn't thinking, Beth. Honestly, you come up with these crazy ideas when you hike to the top of a mountaintop and the sun's peeking over and everything looks gorgeous. You're like, I'm going to do this crazy thing. And then later reality dawns on you, like, I live in Idaho now, not Pennsylvania, not Oregon, where temps are like below freezing in January, 2 feet of snow on the trails. I mean, it's a disaster. But I made up my resolve that I was going to go hiking for 31 days straight and practice being in movement, being in nature, being unplugged from tech. And my only reason to do that was to find clarity in my own life. About 2.5 to 3 weeks in, I had this moment on the trail. I can still remember exactly what trail I was on. And I thought to myself, wow, if this is so beneficial for me, why am I not doing this with my clients? And at the time, I had my first keynote that I was ever giving set up in February. So I got back to the office after that hike. I called the CEO who had hired me for that keynote. And I said, hey, I have a crazy, crazy idea. What if I took the group on a guided hike in the middle of the keynote? And it was a small group, Beth, like 40, 50 people. And he didn't hesitate. He said, this is a great idea. I love it. Let's do it. And that was the first time I hiked with clients. And I've been hiking with clients ever since.
Oh my gosh. Was his name Mark?
John, actually.
John.
Yes.
Shout out to John. Thank you, because thank you for believing in Jessica's vision and this crazy idea. Thank you. Which changed it all for you. What happened when those 50 people were guided by you on that during the keynote?
So it was really fun, Beth, because the first part of my keynote, I structured all around the problem of technology and how we're constantly distracted and we can't tap into our best ideas and we're showing up to life and work half distracted. And then I started to get into the benefits of being in nature. And I showed them a picture on a PowerPoint slide. And it was a beautiful wooded forest. And I was starting to say, even staring at a picture in nature can reduce your cortisol levels. But you know what's better than a picture? And kind of surprised them all. And I said, the real thing. Now, we're going on a hike. And it was beautifully planned because their company retreat was already like in a state park. And all we had to do was walk out the front door. And they all kind of looked at me like, is she serious? Are we really doing this? And I was like, oh, yeah, we're doing this.
Moaning or groaning. Everyone was kind of like, okay.
Not at first. I'm sure there were a few. But we hiked down to Lake Washington outside of Seattle.
Oh,
and it was beautiful. And then the hike back up was what you affectionately know as when I tell people it's mild elevation and it's not. And I'm
familiar.
Yeah, you're familiar. And I had a few people probably hating me towards the end, which was never my intention. And I share one of the stories in the book that touched me so much, the story of Rick Rice, and not to necessarily spoil it, but it showed me that was my first experience, Beth, where I learned on the trail, it's not about what I say. As you know, I don't talk or preach too much on the trail. It's really about the experience. I'll stop occasionally and give some prompts, but everyone takes what they need from the experience. The more I just show up as the guide and let the experience unfold, and I don't control everything or talk too much. It's the reverse of how I was in corporate, and I'm still learning, but I'm letting go of control and I'm just showing up and curating the experience, and everyone seems to derive exactly what they need from it without me having to prescribe it, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. And we should, just to help identify, you have had this lustrous career of already working with clients, project management, leadership, all the skills that, again, that corporate life you had, and now that which gives you the holding and the footing to serve as this guide. So it's not like you are coming in and just being like, trust me, we're going down. And you always pre-hike your guides too, your trails. So you're always have your feet on the earth, like knowing exactly what steps they're taking as well. It's not a surprise. It's not the first time you're doing it. You know what you're doing. And this is why I, again, also enjoyed my experience so much, because I had so much trust. And I'm like, she knows what she's doing. I want to go into the science of what you just said, because what you to some of the first keynote hikers that started it all for you is in one of yours. It's actually on page 60. And it's the second reason I love this book so much. The first, it's from you, and I hear you. The second reason is the science. And that's no surprise here. So let me get into it a little bit. The forest group saw a 13.4% drop in cortisol just from viewing the trees. I love this kind of science. And a 15.8% drop after walking through them. Their pulse rates fell by 6% just from looking at trees, and another 3.9% after walking through them. Even their blood pressure dropped 1.7% after viewing, 1.9% after walking, all this without a single breathwork session or meditation app. The power of being outside. And so, Jessica, the reason why I know a lot of people are like, okay, Beth, well, draw the lines. Here's the draw. When people look up at the stars, This is a very similar experience. Blood pressure goes down, cortisol goes down. We have a sense of awe and wonder. We put our technology away. We look at space totally different. Guess what? Nature and space have been there all along. So it's not a surprise, but having a guide, being able to walk you through and now sharing the science, that's why I love this. And it's not just blood pressure, cortisol, other things. Let me jump to another part, the missing piece. This is in a few chapters back. Knowing the science is not enough. Understanding that your brain craves the gentle stimulation of soft fascination that won't change your life unless you're willing to step away from the societal rules that tell us work is only happening in the office behind a desk and plugged into technology. We step out, we get into nature, we find these truths, you guide us through it. And because you've had these experiences over and over again, and now you get the glorious job, your job is phenomenal, to see the spark light in others that have this same experience over and over again with you on the trail. Does this fuel you? I mean, it's in the book. It fuels me, and I'm a one-timer. I can't wait to do it again. You get to do this, what, every couple weeks?
Yeah, at least. I mean, to answer your question, does it fuel me? Absolutely. I mean, my job, I'm a chief hiking officer.
I love that. I love it.
I'm living what I had hoped to grow up to be, but never really knew it. So, I get to show up to these experiences and kind of like the cool ant, steal cell phones and, as you know, take people out into the woods and ask them the most, sometimes people would say ridiculous questions. I'm like, how does that? And I'm like, just trust me.
Yeah.
So does it fuel me? Every time I have an experience, Beth, whether it's a one-on-one coaching session or a corporate experience or like the retreat we did, every time I'm on the trail, I have these moments of extreme gratitude to God and the universe that I get to show up in this way in my work.
So not everyone is as fortunate as you and I, and we don't get to have the epic landscapes and the entire visual cues and the forest bathing experience. But you argue in the book that there's 30 minutes available in your day. And this is a hard argument. I'm not going to lie. People must push back on you on this. How do you walk us through how this can happen for us, even in Flatland, Illinois?
Absolutely. So to answer your question, two parts to the question, I would say. First is everyone, one of the top questions that people actually ask me, Beth, is what is nature? And at the surface level, we are all laugh and be like, oh, so silly. We all know what nature is. But then when you really think about it, you're like, but what is nature? And the true definition is nature is anything that is not man-made.
Okay.
So if we just pause for a second, that could mean looking at nature could be a patch of grass, a tree-lined street, a blue sky, ocean waves. I know you love to take bicycle rides. As long as you're looking at nature, and the metric I give in the book is you want to try to see more nature elements than man-made structures.
Okay.
So for a lot of us, maybe that means driving 10 minutes away. But if all you have time and space in your day to do is walk around your neighborhood, just walk a path that you see more nature elements. So that's, I would say, the first part to answer the question. But the second, and I get a ton of pushback on this, is just, I don't have 30 minutes in my day. And my argument back, Beth, is yes, you do.
Yes.
It's what you're willing to sacrifice for it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you spend 30 minutes watching Netflix or 30 minutes scrolling LinkedIn or Instagram?
Wait, are you watching me right now? Wait.
No, I'm talking about myself, by the way. I would never judge others. But the reality is, I also tell a lot of the busy executives that I work with, and you've probably heard this, if you give me 30 to 40 minutes practicing this methodology, what I can guarantee you is that you will gain anywhere on average from 90 minutes to 2 hours back in your day. Because when you return from that hike, you are going to be, and the science in the book shows this, more productive, more creative, and more focused. I've experienced this myself. My clients have experienced this. So often, Beth, it's so funny. I'll be sitting at my desk doing what I like to call the death spiral. You know what I'm talking about? You have 12 browser tabs open. You have a to-do list with 45 things.
Sure.
Trying to figure out how to prioritize. If I just walk away and practice my own methodology, I come back with extreme clarity and I say, wow, I don't need to do 45 things. I need to do 3, and I need to do them very well. And in order to do those three very well, I'm going to shut every browser tab. I'm going to put my phone on airplane mode and do not disturb. And I'm going to spend a focused hour getting those three things done. Time and time again, it works.
I love that. I know it works. What do you think it is about nature that makes it work? What is, when you say brings the clarity, what is it in nature that you're experiencing? Like, get very visceral. Is it the smells, your brain opens, other things are falling to what is it that you're experiencing that you can share that help you get hyper focused professionally?
Sure. So what I believe is it's not, I feel like nature is a pillar, but I think it's the whole, like, as you know, the enchilada or the methodology, which is the hike method. So very quickly for your listeners or people who haven't read the book yet, H stands for hike or walk. That creates the bilateral stimulation in your brain. That's important. I stands for in nature, all the reasons we just talked about. K, and this is where everyone tends to mess up, it stands for keep technology off. And E stands for every day. If you choose to read the book and practice the challenge, you do it for 31 days for every day. So to answer your question, what is it about this? What I found based on scientific research is that there is we have 4 attentional networks. And I talk about this thanks to Dr. David Strayer from the University of Utah, who I interviewed for the book. He explained this to me in great detail. I'll cut to the highlight of it. There is an attention in our brain called the default mode. And that's where all creative thought and problem solving lives. The only problem with that is we rarely access our default mode in our brain, Beth, because we're so busy. Sorry, I have a fly in my office.
Wow, you're practically outside.
I'm practically outside. We're so busy constantly being pinged and notified and on technology that our brain is never really able to fully decompress to get into the mode where we can relax enough that we access that creative default mode. Yeah. But once we get there, that is the place where our problem solving abilities are really sharp. And so when we go for this 30 to 40 minute hike out in nature, we're accessing an area of our brain we don't normally access. Things become crystal clear, and we're not able to do that from our desk, from our computers, and sitting down. So it's quite simple, really. You're just sort of priming yourself to get into a different operational mode, and then you find extreme clarity, and then you're able to act on that clarity.
So Jessica, in your book, you say that all of this magic happens over the course of 31 days. Why 31?
Well, interestingly enough, it was a pure accident at first. I set myself a metric because I had my big epiphany or mountaintop moment on December 23rd, 2023. And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I'm going to do this for a period of time, we had the holidays coming up, mom of 2 kids. I was like, well, I'll start January 1st. And January has 31 days. So I'll do it the whole month of January.
Okay.
But in writing the book and doing research as to why it works so well, I found the work of James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. And he talks about it typically takes anywhere between 18 to, I think, 30 days for something you're practicing to become a true habit where then you just gravitate towards it. So I kept the 31 days probably just for sentimental reasons. Also, a lot of people tend to start practicing this at the beginning of a 31-day month. So 18 to 30 days, that's what it takes you to form a habit that then you want to keep going. And the extra day is just, I don't know, for good luck.
It works. It works. Okay. So what happens when you don't hike?
Me personally or in general?
Both. I can speak from my experience too on the bike. Like if I'm not on the bike, I have a whole nother article coming out about that because you talked in the beginning about being an addict for work because you feel it. You wake up in the morning, you feel it. And now for me, taking your challenge, which to be honest, to be totally transparent, I had already enjoyed being out on the bike trail prior to your book and prior to, discovering more about how my wild advantage by having the retreat experience. But I had no idea how to do it effectively. So now that I've done it without my technology, super hard. And yet now that I've done it, I'm like, that's how you do it. Now I know. And I can't wait because there's a second part to this that you're going to be working with me to kind of develop. And I can't wait for that. But the days that I don't get on the bike, I can tell. I'm grouchy, I'm crabby, I desire it. If there's rain or wind or snow or something going on weather-wise, I feel robbed. I get so mad. And I'm like, I should not take this out on my family or coworkers, but I'm genuinely mad that I could be out there instead of in here with all this. Is that how you feel too?
Absolutely. So a couple of tricks I've learned is if I get up first thing in the morning, because often, as a busy moms building businesses and organizations, like we are so busy. So my kind of hack or trick is to try to get up first thing in the morning before anyone in my family wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't get my daily hike in, Beth, a couple of things happen. One, I am definitely grouchy. I also feel I'm really attuned to my body and my emotions, and I feel this sort of bubbling up level of stress and anxiety and a response to things that wouldn't normally be so heightened. So like maybe I'll get an email or have an interaction with someone and it starts to bother or like fester inside of me at a ratio that's not proportionate to the reality of the situation. And I also would mention that my daily hike, whenever I practice my daily hike, I have much better boundaries with my technology. When I don't practice, it's like a very slippery slope. We talk about being addicted to work or to technology. When I'm not practicing and I don't have that kind of sacred space without it, I very quickly can sense myself almost acting, I'm only talking about myself here, but I am acutely aware of the science and how the engineers of technology and apps have hijacked our attention. Like I know the science, Beth, of what's going on, and I still struggle to resist it.
It's made that way. It's made for us to go beyond the science and be addicted to it. Yeah.
So that's what happens when I don't hike. It's bad.
We're adults. Can you imagine? I know our kids, and you had said at the beginning, we're like the last generation that had this wonderful life before technology, and we're all going to be so guarded so strongly. And as parents, it just seems like such an uphill fight to have that balance between the tech and getting out and having a life without tech, but it's what it is now. So we're adults, we can barely control it. It's designed for us to stay in it and love it and get used to it. And then when you get outside, I think the reason why we're so fiercely guarded about our outside and we get so crabby is because we know how good we feel when we are outside and when we put it down. I know I'm better. The science behind it now, and it's in the book. So for everyone, again, it's The Wild Advantage. We're talking to Jessica, our author and guide. I want to move into a little bit about the retreat and what happens when you take people out in nature, not just for a keynote, for a little bit, for that touch of an experience, but a fully immersed week or weekend or whatever amount of time that goes beyond. And it is a commitment. It is putting your things like aside, but the things that you discover and find by leaving some things behind, the sacrifice is very, very investive. And talk about what are some of the things that you do on these longer experiences and how you guide people through a transformative process. What are some of the things you're doing?
Well, I think, first and foremost, because I've read a lot of the peer-reviewed studies and research, I'm acutely aware that you kind of need several days to decompress. And so, as you know, because you've attended one of my experiences, the one we did was not full digital detox. I called it like digital detox light to your comfort level. But I really love kicking things off with a campfire chat. And I hate the fact that everyone now calls things like virtual campfires and silly little, and I'm like, no, it's like, if you have an actual campfire and humans around it, that is a campfire chat.
Yeah, real.
Let's get real. And you experienced it. So the first night that we were there, we had a delicious dinner and then we hung around the campfire for several hours and there wasn't a phone or technology in sight. It was just a bunch of incredible humans talking about things. And I typically do it around the pillars in the book. And sometimes we do things to really make the experience come alive. And I think with your group, what we did is we wrote down something that we were working on the Becoming Fearless pillar. And we wrote down something that was we were afraid of, right? Or something that maybe caused us to feel feelings of being fearful. And we wrote it down on a piece of paper, we crumpled it up and we threw it in the fire. And that's very symbolic of kind of taking action against something that's scaring you and standing in the way of you achieving something incredible. And then, I mean, you and I can talk. There's always guided hikes, maybe an occasional waterfall cold plunge or two. We
Uh-huh.
had very unique experience in the natural hot springs where we did business strategy for the hot springs. I just find the more I can keep people in nature, immersed in nature, in movement and off their tech, like you mentioned, it's not so much about me lecturing or preaching. It's about giving several very acute prompts to get people thinking about things the right way and jotting it down in their field journal. And it just sort of like beautifully comes together at the end.
Yes. And the most beautiful part, I would argue, is that you don't even know you're doing it. You don't even realize. With you serving as the guide, it allows us to just open up and be thoughtful, be mindful. And I love our little field journals. I wish I had mine right in front of me, but it's like half the size of this book. Just real, there's one. That's perfect. Perfect. Yeah, nice size little pocket guide, could fit in your pocket, tuck it away, tiny little pencil. But every time a moment sparked or a solve came through our brains, and it was like, wait a minute, the clarity of nature. And even in the wonderful hot springs, which sounds very luxurious, and it did it feels as dirty and luxurious. It's like at the same time, you're
That's
sitting in a
fabulous. You're
puddle
right.
of the earth. You're literally in an earth puddle. That's
Yes.
a natural heat source. That's amazing, filtered. It's like the best thing ever. But dirt, also
Sure.
dirt, not comfortable, but also light, nice and warm. And yet you're like, write it down. I'm like, in the water? You want our field journals and our pencils? Yes, because that's where the ideas are happening. And you held us accountable. And it was so fun and clever to be like, how am I going to keep this from getting wet, but also right above the water? But
Right? All the
and some
things.
of my best ideas came
Mhm.
sitting in the water. And so I'm so grateful I had the field journal with us. And then there were the moments where we got to the top of the mountain and you asked us to forest bathe. What is it about forest bathing for people maybe who don't live near a forest or a mountain and don't have this epiphany experience? You can forest bathe in different ways, right?
For sure. And so just for your listeners, because you probably can appreciate, I talk about it in the book. Forest bathing means we're all keeping our clothes on, where no one's getting naked in
Yes.
the woods. Um, Bathing, so the actual term is Shinrin Yoku, which is a Japanese term, and the closest translation is forest bathing. Unfortunately, a lot of people's minds go in weird places, but the bathing in this case really means you're going to immerse all five of your senses in nature. And so you're going to sit in nature without technology, and you're going to allow to your mind, instead of focusing on I'm meditating, you allow your mind to wander in ways of like, what am I seeing? What am I smelling? What am I tasting? What am I feeling? What am I hearing? And just by focusing on that, it sort of allows your entire body to relax. And I typically do anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes with groups in the woods. And I often hear from busy executive professionals that this is the first time they've sat alone with their thoughts and they can't remember how long.
Yes. And I think everyone from our group said we could have done more time.
Oh,
It's
for
the first
sure.
thing we said. We were
Yeah.
like, can we have more time? You're like, nope, we got more to do.
Yeah.
And thank you, because
Sure.
otherwise we'd still be there, which wouldn't be
Probably.
bad. Maybe get snowed on at this point, but that's whatever. Um, but yeah, people don't take time to do this. And when you do, and you, it's beautiful to, if you're not a regular person that meditates or takes that time, and you do sit with yourself, it can be both scary as well as insightful and really inspiring. I know this is my personal experience. I was full of gratitude. I was like, look at this view, smelling the smells, hearing the click bugs. I still don't know what they're called. And seeing like the smells of a place I'd never been that was so gloriously beautiful, but it also translated into my professional work. I'm like, I'm so grateful for my board and my team. I'm grateful for what we've accomplished and what we're about to step into. That feeling of gratitude went from nature all the way through me and into my professional work. Can't say that was the experience for everyone else. Everyone's different, but I would not have had that if I hadn't sat still at the top and taken it all in and looked at it and really sat still and looked and did the forest bathing. And it's different than just sitting still. The smelling, the hearing, the being really tuned into those other senses was a part of what you asked us to do for the science reasons behind why this all makes sense to open up your brain to the ideas you don't get when you're chained to your desk, Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. And those clicker bugs are called Mormon crickets.
Ah,
And they're
okay,
very
thank
noisy
you.
here in Idaho. Every time you're on the trail, it's like click, 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 click. You're
Yeah,
during your forest bathing session.
there it is.
But
Okay,
it's
cool.
very powerful practice. I've always been a terrible meditator, Beth. I will share that with you because it feels like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not supposed to think of anything and that's too hard. And then my brain goes crazy. So for me, forest bathing feels way more natural and just like, okay, I can take some deep breaths and just think about what am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I smelling? And that for me is a lot easier than trying to force my brain to meditate. It's just a different form of meditating.
Yeah. Let's take this all the way home now and talk about when you have this experience. Okay, you've done the hike challenge, you've found your wild advantage, you've read Jessica's book, of course, and you've understood how all this works with your 31 days. And now what? Now that we've landed, we step into what?
Well, so I can share my own journey, but that as well of other individuals who have taken this whole journey. One of which Tracy was at the retreat with us. What I found is that most people, since the book just came out, we don't know yet, but most people who actually do the Hike to Become challenge and finish it. And when I say finish it, I don't mean necessarily all 31 days, but a majority of it. You're very highly intentional about it. Maybe not perfect, but intentional. Those people tend to continue hiking about 3 to 4 times a week
Nice.
and practicing that same methodology of staying unplugged during their hikes. Tracy, I even quote her in the book saying she now uses it as her strategic time to think. She does her hikes. She lives in Florida, outside of Tampa on the beach. And so I would say, what's next? This now becomes a part of your life and you are showing up differently in your life. You've unlocked your wild advantage. And now it's all about maintenance and maintaining that space. And what's curious, Beth, is so I saw this real life sort of case study evolving as I was inspiring hundreds of people over the past 2 years to do it, that the people who finished were continuing afterwards. And then when I talked to Dr. David Strayer during our interview, his suggestion, minimum dose, his suggestion is 3 to 4 times a week, 30 to 40 minutes each, and the same methodology I'm teaching people today. So there's so much alignment. And so that's what's next is just maintaining that relationship with yourself.
Absolutely. And I speak from experience where I'm hooked. I am hooked. I'm in it. I think I finished my official. I've done the 31-day challenge a couple times. I did it once, I think either in the summer or last summer.
I think it was last summer, spring, because you were
Yeah.
texting me pictures, hilarious videos, by the way, about sticks and snakes that I still can't get out of my mind.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't have had my phone with me, but now I'm called out. Totally true.
Oh.
Yes, but I was on the trail. Yes. And then I did it again this time, inspired by the retreat, which, by the way, I want to share with everyone the two things I got out of this challenge, like taking all this in, reading the book, and stepping into Jessica's challenge. And how do you get the wild advantage? You discover it within yourself when you go out without the tech and you do the HIKE protocol. And you take those 31 days and you really have to be gentle with yourself. There are going to be days that are challenging that you're like, okay, the weather doesn't cooperate. I don't feel like it, blah, blah, blah. There's that. And then there's the second part where you're like, I don't like what I'm feeling about this thing within me that I don't like. And if you got to keep moving through that, because there are times on the trail that I'm just talking out loud and people probably think I'm on the phone, but I'm not. I'm just talking out loud. Who am I talking to? It changes, whatever. It changes. Sometimes I'm praying out loud. Sometimes I'm talking through a problem. Sometimes I'm just speaking it just to say it, like an oral processing thing. And I don't like it. But if I didn't speak it on the trail and work it out, it would still be in me trying to push it through while I'm trying to, punch through my day. And it would fester and it would just keep. So the trail allows me almost a place to like dump or breathe or chill or like get rid of it as well. And then the 31 days, the longer immersive experience with you on the working retreat gave me so much clarity about what's next for us in our organization that it gives me a new sense of excitement to step into it, clarity, knowing exactly where I'm going. And I wish I could have taken everyone from my group with us so that we could all have that shared clarity. But I feel like when I conveyed it to my team and I came back home and I was like, this is what we're doing in 2026, and this is all we're doing in 2026. And if it doesn't align with this, we're not doing it. Everyone on my team was like, yes, they were grateful. Speaking of, as we wrap up and getting through the challenge and taking on yourself and stepping into this glorious change, people just are drawn to you. They just are. I've seen it with your assistants. I've seen it with people who come to the trail. And I saw it at the very beginning, that people gravitate to people who have these big ideas, who can problem solve in this way. So in order for people to find out more about you, where can they go? Where can they do it naturally. It happened at a conference day one. That's how you and I got to cross paths. And I was like, I'm keeping my eye on her. She's going somewhere here. I know it. And I'm so grateful. So where can people discover, and especially getting into the winter months where maybe we can't get outside as much as we'd like, or maybe we're not in a place where nature is going to be right front and center or available to access. So that's a perfect time to read the book and sit with that. So where can they find it?
So they can find the book, The Wild Advantage, Why Your Brain on Nature is Your Boldest Business Move. It's currently available on Amazon. So that's the best place to find the book right now. They are welcome to reach out and contact me. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and of course my website, which is hiketobecome.com.
Perfect. Well, Jessica, it has been such a joy to see you move through this process, and I'm so grateful that you've shared your ideas with me. I have definitely transformed, and my organization's on its way. I can't wait to continue to work together with you, but all the best, continued success to you. And if you don't have a copy before the holidays and the weather gets cooler, I highly recommend it. Jess, thanks for joining us today on Casual Space.
Thank you so much for having me, Beth. It was truly an honor.
If you enjoyed this episode, give it some stars by rating and reviewing it on your podcast platform. Embrace the space. Casual Space.